I have made the decision of, of me, I just won't never convert. It's just not going to happen because of...
If all those things are true, man, I think we can say that these accounts that we have of Jesus are at least generally reliable historically. Maybe they're not perfect. Maybe there are some errors or mistakes.
It's
but I
because of
think we at least get
evidence
an
and
accurate
data.
gist of it, right? That
Yes.
would be the data, for believing that these things actually happened historically.
Yes.
That's just some of the main reasons in a nutshell. What's your initial reaction to that, I guess?
I would like to learn about the evidence.
Yeah.
I'd like to know, but I feel like there's much more. Sure, I can believe it. And again, it's like I can believe it just like that water, the lowest level of water.
Right.
What you told me, because yes, there's evidence. I can see those as pieces of data.
Right.
Right. But looking into that is a way of understanding it and learning more. Right. But there's a whole lot I would have to research and understand and do to say that Jesus would be my Lord.
If the data that I shared with you is true, that these are written close after his death, they're written by people who wanted to write history, not just, write myths or something. They, a lot of what we find in there matches with what we know to be true historically. And, it's likely that these accounts are based on eyewitness testimony, or a lot of them at least. If that data I shared with you is true, would you accept the Bible's portrayal of Jesus?
I would. It would be close. The evidence is there. But I don't know if I would call him God after all.
Why not?
Because there has to be... If you could cover up all the bases. And I would also want to know the past about these people. What they've been through. How they were brought up. And if that evidence is thorough and it's there, it's going to be easier for me to believe that, Jesus is real, that Jesus is God. But I would want to also investigate other cultures, religions too.
Gotcha.
And I would want to, I can't just learn about one thing. I want to learning about Jesus is like one subject in the class, right? But there's also another subject about learning about other religions, understanding them. I don't even think I understand Hinduism, Jainism properly. I would want to know from who my parents are, from who I believe in, trust in, have all that love and care from them. I would want to learn about that too.
Yeah.
I would want to know about what a lot of people say. It's like saying that, respectfully, it's like saying that you hear the story from one side. It's like a divorce happens, you hear the story from one side, but not both sides.
Yeah.
And they're like, you have compelling reasonings. I never listened to the girl's side of the story, vice versa, right? So that means you're right. And I believe with everything that you should do, and you should go do this in court and blah, 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 and you will definitely win. But until I don't hear the girl's side of the story, I cannot make a good judgment.
Yeah.
I cannot say that is true, or it's hard for me to believe it.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's interesting that you say that, man. I mean, so there are a couple of different points there. Just to touch on that last point you made really briefly, I'm assuming you would agree with this. I don't think it's wrong, by the way, to study evidence for other religions.
Yes.
However, I don't think it's necessary in order for us to know the truth. And the reason why is because I think if you have good reasons for believing something's true, you don't need to examine all of the other alternatives to know that they're false. Like, for example, if you have good scientific reasons for believing that the earth is round, I don't think you really need to spend time considering the alternative views that it's not, right?
Yes.
Because you have good reasons for believing that it is, and obviously, those views contradict what you have good reason for believing to be true.
Yes.
And similarly, if we have good reason for believing that Jesus is Lord, and that he is God,
if it covers up all the bases.
Yeah. If we have good reason for believing that, then I think even if we don't study Hinduism and Islam and Judaism, we can know that those other religions, at least in their fundamental truth claims, that are contrary to Christianity, aren't true. Like, for example, if Jesus is God, Islam fiercely denies the divinity of Jesus. So we can know that it's wrong on that point.
Islam says that Jesus is just a prophet.
Just a prophet, exactly.
And there's other prophets too.
Right.
And Jesus is not God because Allah, the God that's above Jesus, is the God.
The only person that is fair to call God, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Islam would be incorrect on that. Even if we don't study the arguments for Islam, if we have good reason for believing Jesus is God, we can be confident Islam's wrong on that point, right?
Yeah, we could
or same on Hinduism, because Hinduism believes in lots of gods, but Christianity says that there's only one God. So even if we don't study the evidence for Hinduism, we can know that it's wrong on that. One thing I'd be really curious in hearing your take on is if the data that I shared with you is true.
Yes.
You go back home, you investigate this for yourself, and you find out, oh, you know what? These things that he shared are true, and these accounts we have of Jesus are reliable. Would that be enough to convince you that he is the way, the Bible portrays him to be?
And if I see it and it's meant to be true, and I see the evidence, I can believe it. But personally, for who I am as a person, the way I've been brought up, I have made the decision of me, I just won't never convert. It's just not going to happen because of who I am as a person and how I've been brought up.
What do you mean by convert exactly?
Like, convert to Christianity or call Jesus God. Because I don't call anyone God, right? And even following the Hindu and Jainism culture, because of the house I've been brought up with, my parents go to temple. Yesterday I went to the temple and I prayed, in Sanskrit and in Hindi, the prayers, right? I'm already doing that. So in order for me to believe it, I can believe, if there's evidence, you can believe anything.
Right.
But to convert and call something God is going to be hard for me to do personally. And it's because of and that's the reason why it's going to be hard for me to believe, because of my upbringing.
Okay,
so,
because you would have to leave behind what you were brought up with and some of your cultural traditions.
Even if it's
religious practice.
Even if it's true, even if I find these findings are true and they're meant to be, and I find the truth in them, would keep my values to myself, and not convert and respect my parents. But I'm always open to listen about Christianity, to learn about the Bible, to learn about different, because it's just knowledge I'm acquiring. It tells me how people think. Sure. It tells me how people what values people are. It tells me who I'm surrounded by. And these values you guys have and learn and have seen and you guys believe in Christianity, they're immaculate. They're great. They're great values.
Yeah.
And I am with those values, and I agree with a lot of this. Almost all of the values,
I love that, man. That's great.
Most of them.
Yeah.
And it's just that, just my upbringing, who I am. Yeah. I will not personally want to convert and will not convert because of even if those teachings are real and they're honest and truthful, because of who I am and my upbringing.
Wow. So tell me more about that, man, because it's like, for me, it's really. That's really hard to wrap my mind around, because like for me, I grew up as a Christian. My family's very Christian. I work as a pastor now, so I'm very invested in Christianity.
Yes.
But if a Muslim showed me that what I believe is actually wrong, and there were good reasons for believing in Islam instead, better reasons for believing in Islam instead, then I think I would have to convert and become a Muslim. I couldn't stay practicing something that I know isn't true, and living my life in accordance with something that I know isn't true, right?
What if, now you've probably seen the evidence behind the blind going from the blind to the unblind, and I'm sure you have, right?
Right, yeah, historical evidence that Jesus actually did do these things that the accounts say he did.
Yes, and then let's just say I'm not Muslim, but let's just say I'm Muslim, and I'm like, well, I have evidence from people who I have evidence from back X amount of years ago, and they're saying that Allah, the Lord, the God, has done these miracles, and look, this is the evidence right here,
right?
And you see it, and I can be like, hold on, I've seen this in people who believe in Christianity, and I've seen this. Who do I agree with now?
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time. I don't understand,
Yeah, I think you have to wrestle with that. I think we should always believe whatever's most likely to be true.
Yes.
Whatever we have the best reason for believing to be true.
Yes.
And, personal experiences play a role in that. And when when you're considering like historical evidence or philosophical evidence, that definitely plays a role in that. But if I had more compelling reason, to believe in Islam, whether it be through personal experiences or historical or philosophical reasons, if I have more compelling reason to believe in Islam, then I think I should believe in Islam instead, right? And even though it'd be very costly for me to convert, leaving behind what I was taught as a kid from my family, leaving behind the traditions and practice I've always engaged in, leaving behind so much of my of my culture, so to speak, and even leaving my job, I feel like I would have to do that. I have to live in accordance with whatever I think is true.
Yes.
So I'm just curious how you couldn't do that. Like you're saying, even if I came to believe that these accounts were reliable and Jesus actually was God, I still wouldn't convert. Like, I don't know how that's possible. How could you not? How could you say this is true, but I'm gonna live a lie instead? I'm not gonna live as if he's God. I'm not going to follow him, worship him.
I wouldn't say it's a lie. It's just my upbringing, right? It's just who I am as a person. I just wouldn't be able to go that path.
Why? How is that even possible?
Because sure, it might be true, but it's just not how I've been brought up. I wouldn't want to.
No, that makes sense.
I wouldn't want to go into it exactly.
Let's say that you investigated Hinduism, you investigated Islam, you investigated Judaism, you investigated Christianity, and any other religion out there you thought was worth investigating.
Yes.
And at the end of it all, you realize there's compelling reasons to believe that Jesus is God, and that these other religions are incorrect on some of their fundamental beliefs.
Yes.
Let's say you came to be convinced of that. Would you then live in accordance with the fact that Jesus is God? That's what I think it means to convert. I think it means to not just accept that something is true, but then live in accordance with it.
Sure, it could be true that, if there's evidence that Jesus could be God for a lot of people, and I should believe in him too, in Jesus. But
let's say that you come to believe that at the end of all of your investigating. Would you then convert in the sense of saying, all right, I'm going to have to leave behind some of these practices I've engaged in, and some of these cultural things that maybe I was brought up with, and live in accordance with the fact that he is God?
But I would also talk to my parents about it. I would talk to my parents because, yes, I am an adult and I can make decisions on my own and do whatever I want to, but I have enough love and respect for them where I would want to listen and have their take and tell them all the stories and give them compelling evidence and reasonings, and be like, I've investigated Hinduism, I've investigated Muslim, Buddhism, everything, Jainism, Hinduism, Christianity, and I've yet to believe that no other religion was able to give me evidence like this, and I hope you can understand to agree with me on it. But I think I will make the decision of converting and have that talk with them and hopefully convert. But after all those teachings and rulings, and not rulings, teachings and practices and everything, if the evidence is clear and the data is there and it's evident, then of course.
Okay, so then you would.
Yeah, but I would want to investigate everything.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So that's more understandable, man. I could definitely see why you'd want to talk with your parents about that. In a way, it sounds like you've already had kind of a conversion experience, going from having left-leaning political views, hearing evidence that changed your mind, and now living more in accordance with what you believe is correct. Like at least in terms of how you vote. Like I said, I don't think you have to examine all the alternative viewpoints to know which one's correct.
Yes.
But even if you did, I think that there's a good chance you'll come out believing that Jesus actually is God and that Christianity actually is true. I think you'll find that that there are compelling reasons for accepting that. Yeah, but I guess there's one other thing that might be helpful for us to talk about here is I guess the reasons for seeking after the truth.
Right.
Because you mentioned that you don't really feel like you need Christianity or another religion in your life right now, right?
Yes.
And even if that were the case, I still think the question of whether it's true is a very significant question, a very interesting question, and one worth pursuing.
Yes.
But I think if we really did need something like that in our lives, it would give us an even greater reason for trying to know if it's true or not. It would potentially create a greater sense of urgency to know if it's true or not.
Yes.
And I think it does, because I don't know how much you know about Christianity, but if Christianity is true, then Jesus is extremely relevant for us personally. He's relevant not only because he fulfills a lot of our deepest longings in life, but he's relevant because, according to the Bible, we have serious needs. Every single one of us has serious needs. Even if you don't feel like it, the Bible says that you, Vasu, have serious needs that only Jesus can meet. Are you familiar with what some of those things are, according to the Bible's view at least?